Welcome to It's Just Middle School with Sarah and
Kelly. If you're joining us for the first time today, we are two fabulous veteran middle school teachers with middle schoolers of our own that love talking about middle school.
Our passion is to support parents and educators in understanding the middle school years through research, experience, and casual conversation.
If you're returning to our show, welcome back. Let's jump into this episode's buzzword.
Assessment. Is assessment simply another word for testing?
What is really being measured through middle school assessments? The soft skills in addition to the content?
And are grades helpful or harmful in understanding achievement, such as standard-based or grades, or what is this portfolio word?
My mom is totally deluded. No cap, girl.
Scenario 1. It's the middle of the week and your child's teacher emails you about an upcoming test. It's a bit of a struggle bus for the rest of the week, as you know you need to be the chauffeur for all the extracurriculars for all of your children. You have faith in your son or daughter. You know they'll be fine in finding time to study and preparing for the upcoming test. The night before the test, you remind them or ask them if they've studied at all. They shrug their shoulders and reply, a little. Fast forward. The test comes back and it's less than ideal, putting into question the amount of time they actually studied. Or reverse, they return with 100%. Whew! Your son or daughter is a genius. Or maybe the test was too easy. What is the message that comes with the grade? In the back of your mind, you think clearly the teacher does not know what they're doing.
Or, from the teacher's side of things, you hand back a test to your students. It was graded pretty quickly. You pat yourself on the back. You got it back to your students within a reasonable time frame. You had a perfect bell curve, giving you a sign that it was a fair test. The mistakes made were slightly expected, and you know where to take your students as you prepare for the next unit. As you pass back the test to one of your top students, she looks nervous. She outwardly says, having seen the grade, a 91%, that is so bad. My parents are going to kill me. She visibly gets upset. You do your best to try to encourage a great job, that a 91% is stellar and shows quality understanding. She seems to reset herself, but as the bell rings and the class leaves, you watch her put her test in the trash. In the back of your mind, you think, clearly the parent does not realize what they are doing. Scenario 2. Your child gets in the car after school and you are talking about the day and they mention a test they took today, a test in which you knew nothing about. You ask how it went and they say they scored a 68%, but it wasn't a big deal because it didn't really count. It didn't count? You ask, how in the world does the test not count? But before you can really hear the response, you are already feeling a little upset. You didn't know about this. How could they study and prepare? Starting with a 68% is hard to come back from. What was the teacher thinking?
Or, from the teacher perspective, wow, this kid knew or was really able to use some great test-taking strategies and ended up scoring a 68% on this year's material. What a great way to start the year with this basic beginning diagnostic tool. Amazing. Assessments are way more than testing and are given for a variety of reasons and used in a variety of ways. Really good teachers are going to be assessing your child in some way every single day. Some of these assessments we just use for diagnostic purposes, and they really are benchmark. They don't have a particular grade in mind. It's just to see where your child is at the moment and what we can do to continue the learning process. Then you have some assessments that are going to give a comparison of learning standards. This is like your ITBS tests, your MEP scores, your end of grade tests. Those are all used to compare how schools are doing nationally to others and on very specific learning goals. In the classroom, though, our main ones are summative and formative. The summative being the ones we use at the end of a chapter or to find a final grade and the culmination of something. Whereas our formative assessments are going to give us that quick, easy check-in, quick quizzes, exit tickets, homework, classwork. Those are going to be the ones that we use mostly to assess where your student at the moment and help guide learning for the next time. Those may or may not be graded depending on the teacher's preference. So Sarah, since we have been back in the classroom for a little while, have you given any of these? What do you like to do? What's your variety? What's your flavor?
Yes, at the start of the year, it is all about seeing where students are. And so there's a lot of assessments being done on a diagnostic level, whether it is a practice writing assignment or let's see what you can do or what you remember over the course of the summer on parts of speech or math concepts. What's interesting about assessments and testing itself is it does cause stress, like it does with our first scenario, whether it is the child stressing on the grade being assigned to their personal being or the stress of a parent realizing that their child isn't meeting their potential. And I think that's our goal for our episode today on assessments, is to understand what they do, what their value is, and what we should as parents and as teachers focus on in the learning growth of our child and students.
Right? Because it's just middle school.
Yes, just middle school.
We want to help find that balance, that weight of the grade versus a calming place, so we're not all stressed about this all the time. So let's dive into a little bit of research on the subject, shall we?
We shall.
And now for a wee bit of research.
Last summer in 2023, a book came out by Jennifer Wallace called Never Enough: When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About It. And this book is really amazing because it talks a great deal about what Wallace defines as mattering, what matters. The idea is having a mattering mindset, a mindset that focuses on the discovery of value through a network of people. In talking about that network regarding children, she writes, "The greater the number of caring and attentive adults our children have in our lives, who know and appreciate and who take an interest in who they are, the more valuable they will feel, and the more they will be exposed to how they can add value to others." Isn't that interesting?
Nothing in there about grades.
Nothing in there about grades. When it comes to achievement, we put a lot of value into assessments, and we associate that value to who they are as a person, which is a completely terrible thing to associate. It should be about their learning and their understanding, but also to note that it's not an end marking to that understanding, that they matter as learners, and then as learners they can grow. A few episodes ago we talked about that growth mindset, and what I really liked about this book when it comes to talking about achievement becoming toxic, it looks at how achievement can corrupt that growth mindset, can stall it out, can make it a fixed mindset, and that language really matters more than anything, and opportunities to improve really matter. Never Enough talks about finding intrinsic motivation as key to success, and not just achievement. So finding that drive that helps students find what they value and find what others value. And that's what the middle school is all about.
So really placing so much value on a single test or on a single paper is probably not the best things that we can do. And this is actually supported in an article that Forbes posted, At the Heart of Education, An Insoluble Problem by Peter Green. And he states, most importantly, we have no way to check if assessment gives us a perfect understanding of student achievement, because we have no perfect measurement to which it can be compared. And he pulls this information from a recent recalibration of AP testing and just kind of puts into question the inflation of assessment and if we are really matching the reality that's going into assessments. And I think when teachers write assessments, when we use information that we're using in class to write assessments, the goal is, of course, to try and gain an understanding of what students know. Like, that's at the heart of all assessments. But we also want to make sure that we're asking the right questions to gain that information, and that we're using the assessments in the right way. And I mean, yes, ideally it would be great if we couldn't have assessments. I mean, that's kind of what Jennifer Wallace was saying in her book. Like,
yeah, I mean, if we
should just build relationships and go with this, gut instinction of all this purpose behind every single piece of content. But unfortunately, parents, that's not what state legislature always lets us do.
Well, that's true.
There are things that are already in place, and I don't think testing is going away anytime soon.
Right. And I think that's the soft skills that Wallace is talking about, right?
Knowing this,
we
do need to put in perspective the fact that the value in our students and in our children should not be placed in a single test.
No, and I think you're right, Kelly. I do think that when Wallace talks about mattering and what is at value, there's also the soft skills involved in an assessment process that make it tricky to figure out what the assessment is measuring. So in a middle school environment, one of the things that that I like to do as a teacher is to check in with my students if they blundered a bit. And middle school's such a crazy world of emotions that I think that there are so many variables as to why a student tested poorly. And so you have to look, or excelled here but did not excel in this skill. And it might not even be about understanding the material. I've had so many students that could verbalize the material, but they could not write it down, put it into words in a pressurized time environment. And I think that's understandable.
Yeah, I think that time factor can really freak some kids out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you have that setting, and it's important, you know that the students are going to face this setting, your children are going to face this setting in the future when they do nationalized testing, that really does carry a great deal of weight towards, let's say, college applications or what schools they're going to. But in middle school, it's kind of giving them that experience.
Yeah, it's a practice ground.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at talking about that practice ground, it's the training on how to incorporate those learning habits, those soft skills. What I liked about Mike Rose's book, he wrote a book called When the Light Goes On, and it talks about how good teaching creates the conditions for students to observe their own intelligence in action. And that what matters is not the grade, but what the students think about their learning. I think that is the ultimate goal of middle school, is to get them to be owners and agents of their own learning.
Right.
And the grade is just really a talking point to see what happened in this scenario.
What can you learn from it?
What can you learn from it?
It's a reflection piece.
Absolutely.
It's not the end all. It's not the finite point. But it's actually a starting point.
Yeah.
For learning.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of middle school, and as you said before, is that it's a playground for learning. Risks do need to happen and do have to take place. And Kelly, this also brings up the question of, if as a parent, and I'd like to throw it to you, is that as a parent and as a teacher, how do you ensure that grades don't become a point of stress for your children or for your students?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just the dialogue that's happening in the classroom and with your parents. I did like in Jennifer Wallace's book, she actually points out and puts so much value on the parent-teacher relationship. And I think that's very true. If it is an open relationship where you feel like you can talk to each other, then there is less stress. And as a parent, if I'm feeling less stress, then I am going to put less stress on the teacher, and my kid's going to feel less stress. If I kind of understand how the value of the testing is working, if I feel like I can question something as a parent without feeling like there's going to be retaliation from the teacher.
Yeah. To not have that defensive relationship, right? Like, you can't, as a teacher, be upset if a parent brings up a concern, and as a parent, you can't feel like you can't bring up that concern because of what it could do in the classroom. There has to be that dialogue between the two of merited respect, right? And mutual respect.
And I really try and foster that with my students too. And I tell them that there are times I am going to make mistakes. And maybe there's a question that wasn't worded very well. I want them to come ask me for clarification, either during the test or on the back end when it's been graded. And they're like, I want the questions. I may or may not change it.
Right.
I just may say, well, really, thank you for bringing up that point, or let me clarify that for you. Yeah. Let me explain the why behind what we did there. And I think that can be really helpful. But that openness is important.
And Wallace, what she also talks about in terms of changing the change or shift in a parent-teacher relationship between generations, I thought was fascinating. But I also think it's something that it shows up like on a comic strip occasionally for this idea of generations ago, if a student, and I'm sure you can think of the comic strip I'm talking about, right? This idea of a student getting poorly, doing poor on a test, and there's a parent-teacher conference. And 20 years ago, you would have parents that say, okay, what did you, my child, do to get this? What did you do? Pointing to the kid, the child. And then fast forward to today, or even 10 years ago, it is now what did you do is what did the teacher do? And I think that
wrong. And like that's what which automatically puts a teacher on the defensive.
Yeah.
And when a parent or teacher starts a conversation on the defensive, someone's already lost.
It's a lost conversation.
Right. It's not going to be helpful. So I do think responding positively with questions and curiosity and concern, and making sure that the student is the focus of where you're going, or your point, your goal, is always going to be a helpful piece.
But that's part of the conversation piece. So just to get that student as an agent of their own learning, I think is the goal of middle school.
And in my class this week, we actually had the same conversation.
Did you?
We did. About how they had 4 activities they had to do in IXL this week. And we talked about how part of it is the time management structure. Like, this is stuff they have to figure out when is going to be a good time for them to complete this assessment.
Yeah.
And they have to complete it to an 80%, which is the accuracy goal in the program that we have set for. But yeah, the big part of it is the soft skills in learning how to study for assessments in different cases.
And I love that accuracy measurement, because your accuracy measurement is not, I think that the message that comes from that is that you're not going to get 100% all the time as you're training to learn these skills. And but you have to be accountable for some of that skill, so you can't just give up and click things, right? So there has to be a level of accuracy to know that you are trying in learning, and I think that 80% is a reasonable amount to provide. But then if a student is getting less every time they're trying, then that is an opportunity for them to see their teacher and to get that added help, or ask mom and dad for, hey, I'm not getting this, what can I do? And I think when we have more opportunities for them to see sort of that
100% is not needed every single time in their life for them to have value.
Ooh, and Kelly, speaking of value and what the students, and this idea of valuing learning over valuing the grade, I know with absolute certainty you are so excited, and I'm saying this facetiously because she's really, really not, about portfolio assessments and how They can cultivate that value of learning in our 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds because they have that, they have that reflective thinking, that
100%.
metacognitive
They are
skills.
totally ready for all of that.
And they can showcase. And we're laughing about this, guys, because
there are great things about portfolios.
There's
they
amazing
really
things.
are. The research out there is wonderful. As a math teacher, I'm not sure
this is what.
how do we show? Here's lesson 1. Check. Here's lesson 2.
How do you feel about lesson 1? and lesson 2?
That is in math. I know exactly how they're going to feel about lesson 1 and lesson 2. Why do we need to do this?
Yeah.
But in all fairness, we know that grades are not going away. So we need to have a good balance between the value of our assessments and
the value of what's being learned, right? The value of the grades versus the value of what is truly being absorbed and taken by our children and by our students.
Absolutely. So here's some helpful advice for parents.
All right.
So our analogy today goes along with a stoplight.
A stoplight.
That's right. Red, yellow, green. 3 easy colors to remember.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are in the red light zone, we really want to stop and think about the message that we are getting and the message that we are receiving to our kids. And this would be when a grade comes home, or when we're talking about testing, or anything that we're really trying to describe to our kids. So
like when we are disrupted by a grade or by a reflection of learning from our children or from our students. So what is disrupting?
Right, when that grade comes home maybe less than you were expecting. As a parent, what can you do? So the first thing is stop. And why are you reacting the way you are reacting? Like, where's that feeling coming from? Is it the grade itself? Is it in the product? Is it in your student? Is it in, what is encompassing the feelings that you're having right now? And just stop and think about it before you react.
Yeah, what are the variables at play? Like, what is the circumstance? What is the expectation? And what might have been in the way of that expectation? So it's just that stop and reflection over that, and assessing. Really what you're doing is assessing the value yourself first before you act on the reaction.
Right, because in reality, the reaction we first have may not be delivering the value we actually want it to have.
Yeah, and if we blow through that red light, we're going to get into an accident, right? Like, we're going to cause an accident. We're going to cause conflict. We're going to cause more than what we would have done had we
there can
stopped
be some
and reflected.
damaging relationships with your student, with the teacher. I mean, there's some emails that have been sent when you know that this has not happened.
Yeah.
Just think about it for a sec.
We don't want to blow through red lights, guys. Let's follow the law.
Nope. So the second one is the yellow light.
Caution.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of, this is where you've thought about the why, because you've stopped, and now you're going to proceed slowly with the next bit of advice, because you don't want to get smashed from oncoming traffic.
So this is like building your sense of awareness, right, over the situation. So you are building a perspective, not investigating, but just kind of understanding the student's perspective or the child's perspective.
And this is where maybe you have the conversation of, what can we do next?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Did you forget to study? Was there information that we need to get you help with? And like, maybe we do need to get a tutor involved, or we can meet with the teacher and she can go over this a little bit more.
Right.
Did you use your rubric?
Yeah.
How can we review that for the next time we go about this?
And like we said in our episode over executive functioning, the question of pride over one's effort might come in. Are you proud of what you have done? And put it on the student to be, or the child to see value in, or non-value in what transpired.
And this is a really good place to get your student to ask the teacher questions if there are any. Mm-hmm. Like, have you talked to the teacher about what you can do next?
Right.
Are there other steps that you can do to follow up with this? that advocate piece that they have to take advantage of is very important during the yellow light too.
And this is so unique to middle school too. This is a very middle school thing, encouraging relationships between your child and the teacher to forge and to kind of have that sense of advocacy and agency from the student that they own what they did and that they are making steps to make improvements.
Absolutely.
And the green light, which means go.
Go do something else. Take a break from it. Go have some fun.
Yes.
Because again, this one particular assessment is not a make or break.
Yeah, there's a long time ago, Kelly, there was a book called Outliers, and there was this conversation by Malcolm Gladwell, and there was a conversation about how achievement is made with 10,000 hours of work. And there was this the research on this was that there was this whole reaction to say, oh, you need 10,000 hours of practice. But the flip side of that is that you also need 10,000 hours of rest that goes along with that practice, and it was skipped over. So this idea of a green light, going and doing something fun, is to ensure that there's a break in thinking about that assessment or that plan, because it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all of any world of any student, that there's more to life.
And as a parent, and even as teachers sometimes, when we can step back and remind students of that fact, that fun can still happen, and fun needs to happen in order to grow.
Yes.
Because that's what this is. An assessment is just a stepping stone to growth. So to recap, red light, stop, think, process. Yellow light, we're going to figure out how to constructively work through it with our student and allowing them to be the advocate.
The awareness of ownership.
And then green, go do something fun.
Exit ticket time. Exit ticket time. It's just middle school. Assessment comes in all variations, from projects to exit tickets, and the grade is not what matters the most.
Number 2, it's just middle school. An assessment can reflect a great deal. So discuss the pride in the learning rather than the grade.
And it is just middle school. We invest in the student, not the grade.
We're so glad you joined us, and we hope that you find your value in this episode on assessments.
This has been It's Just Middle School with Sarah
and Kelly.
Stay tuned for our next episode on intrinsic motivation.
Ready to lock in!